When was the last time you were genuinely convinced by somebody yelling at you? And let's actually nuance this a little bit more. What do you do when somebody just gets really mad at you and they're yelling at you and you're in leadership? And then the other question, why do you sometimes feel like yelling at people and why do you do it? Especially when you're a leader, right? Like you're not supposed to do it. Think about it at the base level. Has screaming ever actually changed your mind about something important, or did it just make you defensive and make you want to double down on your position? I've been thinking a lot about how we communicate, especially in church leadership, and I'm a little bit concerned about what I see. And today, I want to explore why yelling fails to persuade, what actually works instead, and what you should do when you are yelled at as a leader, publicly and privately. And then I want to talk about what do you do when you feel like yelling. Ready to explore that? Let's go! No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to yell at you. Okay, let's go. So why do we yell? I mean, it's a great question, and I'm not a psychologist, but we do it, right? We do it to our kids. We do it in our marriage. But something happens publicly in the leadership sphere that is kind of interesting. So I want you to think about how you behave in person. Like if you and I were sitting down for a cup of coffee, how would we have that conversation? And then I want you to think about you and I driving in the same lane on the highway. And let's say I'm slowing you down in my SUV. Chances are you're going to be more aggressive toward me on the highway than you would be in a coffee shop. The reason is you've got some body armor, right? You've got 3,000, 4,000 pounds between you and me and some distance, and we're a little bit anonymous. You can kind of see it's me, but I'm annoying you because I'm going too slow, right? And you want to speed up. So maybe you're flicking your lights, you're tailing my bumper. You get more aggressive because there's this body armor impact phenomena that happens with human beings. It's the same thing that happens at war. You put on war paint, you put on a uniform, and suddenly you're the good guy, and anybody who doesn't look like you is the bad guy. It makes it easier to shoot. Not criticizing the military. I'm just saying that's human psychology. And it even, if you think about it, it even works a little bit in the grocery store, right? If you've got a cart in front of you and you're pushing it, you're going to be a tiny bit maybe more aggressive than you would be if it was just you walking around without a cart. So that's interesting. What happens is we kind of anonymize people. When you and I are eyeball to eyeball in a coffee shop, at my home, at a table over dinner, it's very different. The challenge that we have when it comes to online life is that everybody's angry. And so it gives permission for people in your church to be mad at you and behave badly. It gives permission for your staff to do it. It gives permission for you to do it. And I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, hey, it's in the cultural water supply, so that's going to be a challenge. But what happens psychologically is your brain treats any incoming yelling as a threat. And it triggers what you probably know psychologists call the amygdala hijack. Basically, your prefrontal cortex, the reasoning part of your brain, literally becomes less active. So when you're triggered, you can't think as clearly or as rationally as you would as if you and I were just having a normal conversation. Research from psychologist Daniel Kahneman shows that when you're threatened that way by somebody yelling at you, it doesn't actually change your mind. You double down your thinking. You're like, oh, well, that's what you think? Well, I'm going to tell you what I think. And their yelling actually backfires on them. It makes it less of an argument, and it makes you more defensive, and it makes you hunker down. That's why almost nothing ever gets resolved when people are yelling at each other. And that's true in a leadership context as well. So if yelling doesn't work, why do we do it? Why do you do it? Why do I do it? I've done it in my marriage. I've done it with, unfortunately, my team a couple of times over the years. You fall into the trap of thinking that you're the exception to the rule. You think, you know what? I'm going to convince this person. So sure, sometimes you're just upset. You think, all right, it's an explosive reaction, that kind of thing. Sometimes you can convince yourself, well, I'm a passionate leader and I'm just going to yell and these people are going to change. And meanwhile, you're backfiring. What I have in me, what you have in you is an impulse. And that impulse is going to take you in the opposite direction of where you want to go as a human being, as a follower of Jesus. And it's going to take you in the opposite direction of where your church needs to go and where your team needs to go. It's going to wreck your culture, honestly. It's going to wreck your relationship. So you don't want to do it, but you do it because it's natural and it's in the water supply. The problem now for you is that if you're a leader, especially if you're a church leader, if that becomes part of your culture, you're kind of undoing the very gospel that you're supposed to be sharing, promoting, living, enculturating. And we make a couple of mistakes. So one of the mistakes we make is that we mistake volume for impact. All right. So you think, okay, I really said it. They heard it. They heard it from the front. They heard it at staff meeting. They heard it in the email. They heard it on my text. I used all caps. Now I've got impact. No, you just mistook volume for impact. In fact, you probably did some damage when you yelled. You confuse emotional intensity with spiritual authority. All right. I'm going to assert my authority. Boom, 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 boom. And listen, I'm an Enneagram 8. Okay. I understand how that works. Jesus asserted his authority by becoming a servant. So no, you didn't win on that one either. And you think that passionate delivery equals passionate conviction. You know what? The slow resolve is always more winsome than the fiery, angry tirade that you deliver as a boss. So that is a real problem in church leadership, and it's becoming almost acceptable in church leadership to yell. Often the most insecure leaders speak the loudest. So is that your insecurity speaking? That's something you should probably chase down. And if you think about the leaders who had the greatest impact in your life, were they the ones that yelled the most? Probably not. They're the ones who took you out for coffee. They're the ones who sat you down. They're the ones who had the conversation. They're the ones who made it real for you. Probably for me, when they were the gentlest with me, I was the most open. I think the people who speak with quiet confidence are probably the best. So let's get down to brass tacks and let's talk about what do you do when you're triggered publicly? What do you do when you're triggered privately? When you're triggered publicly, this is where somebody calls you out. It's not personal. You're not there face to face. So they've sent you that text. They've sent you an email. They've trolled your social media channel. They've left you a nasty comment on YouTube. They've dropped an anonymous letter, the kind that's, cut from magazines and pasted on it. They've done stuff like that. When that's the case, there's almost no win. If you know the person, that's a little bit different. We'll talk about that in a second. But if it's just some public rant, if it's some generic bot looking account, if it's somebody you don't know and you click over to their profile and they have like 75 followers and all other comments are just angry, bevies at people, I found the best thing is to ignore it. Now, I'm going to give you that advice and I'm going to tell you once or twice a year, I decide I'm going to break my own rule. I'm going to go online and I'm going to correct this debate. And I'm going to say, well, I'm sure they're a reasonable person under that, right? So then I jump in and I try to answer their comment. And you know what? It never works. It never works. It never works. And Sharon McMahon has said it. She said it publicly last year on my podcast. This year, she wrote about it to all of her followers, referencing my podcast. The meanest people on the internet are white Christians with scripture in their bio. I don't know what to do about that, but that's true. And there is no reasoning with an internet troll. You're going to lose that debate. So generally, if it's anonymous, if you don't know the person, leave it alone, delete it. If you have to, block it. You're just not going to win that discussion. If you know that person, it's like, Carey 123. It's like, hey, that's Nieuwhof. Here's what you do. And this gets us into what happens when you actually are triggered privately. You want to reply relationally. So I've left a comment on your social media channel. You don't like it. It's aggressive, but you know me and you got my cell number. You got my email. Call me. Just like, hey, Carey, I was on my YouTube channel today and I noticed you left a comment. Can we talk about it? Well, that does a bunch of stuff. Number one, all of a sudden you've taken something that felt anonymous and negative and you made it personal. And I'm taken aback. I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, Josh, yeah, about that comment. All of a sudden, you're no longer in war paint. You're eyeball to eyeball. And that really, really in itself usually de-escalates conflict. And I've done that numerous times where I get an email. I may not even know the person and it seems aggressive, but I'm not 100% sure. And sometimes I'll just pick up the call and go, hey, it's Carey Nieuwhof. First of all, they're shocked it's me. Number two, we have a good conversation. So that can help. And then if, I'm just screaming at you after you call me, then, Carey really is a troll and I can't help him. But if you want to reply relationally, you want to escalate it, right? Turn an email into a coffee, turn a comment into a phone call, that kind of thing. You're going to try to humanize that. So that really helps. But what happens if you're put on the spot? What happens if it's not an email? You don't have time to react. Couple of things. Number one, follow the 24-hour rule. Nothing good happens when you're upset. When you are triggered, when that triggering comment triggers you, nothing good happens. Just wait. Go to sleep, pray, read your Bible, get a good night's sleep, talk about it with some wise counsel. Say, hey, can you come over here and have a look at this? This guy left me this comment. I don't know what to do. Or he said this in a meeting. Or this staff member did this to me. Or somebody I know sent me this email. How do you read it? Honestly, you can use AI. AI isn't bad at that. You can say, hey, I got this nasty email. Can you help me come up with an emotionally intelligent response? You can do that as well. That really helps. But you want to wait a while. And what you're going to do in that time is you're going to calm down. You're going to get wise counsel. You're going to pray. You're going to pay attention. Secondly, then you want to engage it. You want to give that person the benefit of the doubt. I love what Tim Keller said. I asked him once in an interview I did with him about how he handles criticism. And he just said, there's always 1% truth there. And so you might want to pray about it. You might want to say, God, this is a lot of garbage to me, but is there 1% truth that I could really pay attention to? And then own what you can of it and say, I really want to understand. I want to hear, and don't defend yourself. Just listen. Now, you're saying, well, that's good if you have 24 hours, but if you're preaching and somebody comes down and they're like, that's the worst sermon I ever heard, or they catch you in the lobby and they're just yelling at you, what do you do then? And the answer is say nothing. Just listen, kind of brace yourself, steel yourself, don't respond. And at the end, just say thank you for your feedback and walk away. Why would you do that? You're not trying to shut them out. You're not trying to shut them down. But you are probably so triggered that there is nothing that's going to come out of your mouth that's going to make that situation better. When I get triggered like that, I promise you, I have a million thoughts in my head. None of them are from Jesus. None of them are going to help me. I just got to shut up. And the only way I know how to make that situation any less bad than it is to not say anything. Where does that leave us? Publicly, I don't think you're going to get very far when you're triggered. Probably leave it alone, delete the comment. If you know the person, reply relationally. And then in the spot, wait 24 hours if you can. Get wise counsel. Pray about it. Think about it. Try to create an emotionally intelligent response. Elevate it relationally. Just take notes. Thank the person. You're not always going to agree. And then if you get cornered in the lobby or, somebody stops you on the street, somebody walks into your office and unloads on you, thank you. And then just let them go. And then you can explode in the car later. Yelling doesn't really get you very far. Hey, if you found this helpful, I would love for you to subscribe. I am exploring how we can lead better in divided times, trying to help you with that. If you're inclined, please leave a comment. Maybe not an angry comment in all caps, but leave a comment and let me know what you're learning about conflict, how to resolve it well in this very divided time.